All right. You saw Christopher Wray. Last night, Fox News finally admits in front of everyone something we've known from the beginning. The COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus came from Wuhan, China. It came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The intermediate horseshoe bat lives 900 miles away. It didn't fly in for the weekend and spread the virus to the wet market. It didn't make sense then. It never has. And yet, anybody who told the truth was smeared, silenced on social media, treated like a conspiracy theorist with no intelligence. We had it right the whole time. The FBI agrees, the Department of Energy agrees, and my next guest certainly agrees. Li-Meng is a Chinese virologist known for her publications and interviews, and she says SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, was made in a Chinese government laboratory. Her publications have been widely criticized by the scientific community. And yet, here we are today looking at the truth. In April 2020, she fled to the United States. The Chinese Communist Party intentionally released COVID-19 all over the world, she says. She's joining me now. Doctor, thank you for being here.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Greatly appreciated. This is the most important conversation we're going to have in a long time. So, walk us through this. Take your time and tell us where you believe this virus originated, how it originated, and how it ended up here in our country and all over the world.
Okay, very briefly, as one of the first researchers out of Wuhan to investigate this SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19 virus, I can tell you that as a virologist and also a doctor, this virus was made in the lab. And the lab is controlled by Chinese Communist Party government and also belongs to the Chinese military. So this virus was first originated from the bat coronavirus discovered by People's Liberation Army scientists around 2015 to 2017 from East China. They gave the backbone of this virus as DC45 and also a twin-like virus, ZXC21. So based on this virus, they have done a lot of modification in the labs. If you call it gain of function, then they have done many gain of functions to this virus through many military teams and also civilian teams under CCP. Finally, they have the product COVID-19 virus. So this is weaponized. And also, at the end of 2019, this virus was brought intentionally out of the very strict lab, the BSL-3 lab in Wuhan, and then released for some purpose in the community. However, the scientists underestimated the transmissibility of this virus, so they thought it would be under the control, but it was out of control and caused the Wuhan outbreak. And then Chinese government started to cover up.
What you're saying is the Chinese manipulated this. You can call it gain of function. You can call it whatever you want, using different pieces of different viruses to create this new virus, this new pathogen, if you will, and then intentionally released it. But they didn't realize how fast it would spread and how far it would spread, so suddenly they had a problem on their hands. How do you arrive at this conclusion?
Because I'm the first scientist to study the transmissibility, so my research published on the Nature magazine in May 2020, half year after the outbreak in Wuhan. And also that was the proper animal model to test it. Before that, Chinese government using the wrong animal model, and they never expected it could transmit so quickly. However, it doesn't matter for them. They never care that their people get such large damage because quickly they realize, this is good, high transmissible. So in January, they managed to spread it intentionally all over the world before everyone aware of that and caused the pandemic.
So here's a question that a lot of people want to know. When did you last work inside a lab in China? When did you defect from China, come to the United States? When did that series of events take place?
So the outbreak happened in Wuhan at the end of 2019. I would say it becomes the outbreak from around November. And I get into the secret investigation on behalf of WHO, from 31st December 2019. After that, I quickly identified this virus was gain of function and also finally weaponized, and also CCP was covered up. WHO, however, helped them after they get my feedback. And so that's why since the middle January, 19th January 2020, I started to expose the truth of COVID-19 through a New York-based Chinese YouTube channel, Older Media. And after that, it gives a huge pressure to Xi Jinping government. They have to change a lot, but still they managed to cause a pandemic with a compromised scientific campaign. And finally, after 3 months, at the end of April, I was noticed that I will be disappeared. So that's why I managed to flee to New York and start to expose it in U.S.
And you did that in 2020. So your career, though, was as a virologist working inside of China, working inside of labs just like the one at Wuhan Institute of Virology, correct? You worked there.
I worked in the University of Hong Kong. We have the WHO reference lab, which I worked in for over 5 years as a virologist, working on influenza vaccine development, and also COVID-19 vaccine after the outbreak. And my lab is the China government state K emerging infectious disease lab, and my colleagues, including my boss and my husband, are all WHO coronavirus experts. They have the best knowledge all over the world, and Dr. Fauci called them the celebrity of SARS.
And where is your husband and the rest of your family now?
Unfortunately, first, my family, as an only child, my parents are still in mainland China. So they were strictly under the surveillance and the control of Chinese government the moment since I arrived U.S. They threatened them, and also they kidnap them, and they bring them to prison again, torture them, try to use this way to push me go back to China. And my husband, he's a Sri Lankan expert of virology, and he was helping Chinese Communist Party to catch me. And he is now in the University of Pennsylvania because Chinese government and other scientists in U.S. managed to send him here with the Chinese government agents to conduct those kind of fox hunting project to hunt me.
What would happen? What would happen to you, Doctor? Just last question before we hit a break, and we're going to discuss this in more detail. What would happen to you if you went back to mainland China today?
Oh, it doesn't matter. If they get me even in U.S., the first thing is they will manage to silence me. This can be silence me by making me have the mental disorder, or even physically disappear me or killing me. So finally, they will make me disappear.
You would not be here anymore. All right, Dr. Li-Meng, 1 second. We're going to take a break here. Most important conversation you're going to hear possibly this year. We'll take a break. She says the virus was not only manipulated, created in the lab in Wuhan, it was intentionally released. Not accidentally released, intentionally released. More with the doctor. Continuing the conversation now. Dr. Li-Meng is a Chinese virologist, known for her interviews suggesting and saying quite clearly that SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19 virus, was released intentionally November 2019 by the Chinese, and then it suddenly got out of control. She fled to the United States a few months later, where she has been speaking out after she was assigned in December of 2019 by the World Health Organization to investigate the virus. And she said in short order she realized it was a manipulated virus, a created virus, something man-made quite clearly. Doctor, have I got those points right so far?
I think it would be, they release it around the end of October to November, early November 2019. Okay. And they take a little bit time to form the outbreak.
Right. My belief is that it was on the ground in the United States prior to the end of November 2019. So that would actually fit in with the timeline that I believe it had already escaped because it was so transmissible that people that came in contact with it unknowingly then went to other parts of the world, be it Italy or France or the United States, and then you ended up with what we ended up with, which was massive amounts of people getting sick. Now, The Chinese have been able to manipulate the pandemic for their own good ever since, taking over, making lots of money because they had all the PPE gear, they had pharmaceuticals, they had a whole host of things, and they have changed the dynamic of the world, both politically and financially, since the release of this virus. I'm going to guess that was the intention from day one, even though they may not have intended for it to be out that early. It was the intention for this result to occur, right or wrong?
That's why they designed this virus in the lab, spent years, and also before they get the backbone of the virus from East China, they have also spent many years to coordinate the labs in China, so many labs working together, even understand the leading of China CDC to search the novel virus everywhere in China. And they have prepared so much to learn the knowledge from different type of virus, from lethal virus, and then finally they put a lot of knowledge into COVID-19 virus. So yes, as you said, they are so happy finally this caused the pandemic, even better than they thought. China made a lot and they thought they win. So that's why Xi Jinping called it the experience in anti-COVID, the victory. So briefly, this kind of novel bioweapon works as China won.
Let me ask you this, Doctor. The job is not complete. China, Xi Jinping, believes that China is going to have world domination. That is the intention. I mean, it's quite clear from all of the behavior of this regime in Beijing. That is the intent, for China to take over and dominate the world. Is there another virus coming, or 2, or 10? Is this just step one? Do you anticipate more of this sort of actions from the Chinese Communist Party?
First, when they start study the bioweapon, they will never only do one thing, right? And also, when they realize COVID-19 virus is so good, so they won't stop to study other things based on COVID-19 virus. Based on our source and also scientific research, it's highly suspicious that Chinese government engaged into the variant, like the Omicron, Delta variants in COVID-19 virus. And also those are the variants somehow coincidentally the same as we meet in the pandemic during different waves. And also based on our source, they are working also on other type of novel bioweapons, including using some like mosquito carrying the pathogens, or using even the agriculture related bioweapons. Of course, they also study other things like hemorrhagic fever virus and many other types of the pathogens. However, it doesn't mean that every time it will be so successful as COVID-19 virus, but we don't know when will they release the next one, or maybe they will have a better one next time.
Let me ask you this before we run out of time. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the World Health Organization, did America fund what happened in Wuhan? Did we pay the bill by way of Dr. Anthony Fauci? Is he a fraud, in your opinion, from the beginning? The World Health Organization, what is their role here? What is its intention in all of this?
First, briefly, we can call them the elite captured, like the Soviet Union. They are captured by CCP, used by CCP. And since the outbreak, definitely those people realize something wrong. And I don't think they would ignore the lab origin, but they choose to help Chinese government to get their own benefits and damage the world. They are compromised. And the second thing is, yes, there are money come from America, go to China, and your taxpayers' money are abused in China. However, that is not the reason China make bioweapon. Even without your money, Chinese government will still keep going on. And the most important thing is China managed to steal your advanced biotechnology and also build the network to compromise your scientists to help Chinese government to cheat the world. That is the most thing Chinese government want. So of course, WHO, Fauci, Peter Daszak, Gruber, so many people who helped China in the pandemic are guilty, and I hope they could get a fair trial.
Dr. Li-Meng, I hope they get fair trials too, which would mean they'd be on trial. I appreciate it that you're putting yourself at such great risk to tell the truth, to talk about what you know. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. I believe that everyone deserves the truth.
Yeah, so do I. Thank you, Doctor. All right, so here's the takeaway from all of this. She just said they were compromised, paid for. Your tax dollars were used to create this pandemic that she says is intentionally released on the world by the Chinese Communist Party. If you and your friends want to see this again, it will all be available on the Steve Gruber Show YouTube page later today. Go to the YouTube page, the Steve Gruber Show. Follow for free, and then share this interview far and wide. I'll take a break and be right back. Thank you for being here.